Okay, hello again, everybody. So I'm here again with Alyssa,
Hi.
and so we talked last time about the King of Staten Island,
Yes.
and I invited her again because we both had, I think, been pretty strongly anticipating this movie Antebellum. This like sort of it's been promoted as like this kind of in the Jordan Peele vein of horror films. And it's starring Janelle Monáe, who's like she's in a lot of good stuff, like across the board.
Oh,
She
definitely.
does music, film, every television, everything. She's really out there doing good work. And yeah, so I asked her if she wanted to do this review with me, and she agreed. So I was very excited to talk about this film with her.
I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah. So, yeah, Antebellum. Let's get into it.
Okay,
So,
first off, most
yeah.
people have probably seen the Rotten Tomatoes score. So,
Sure, it's pretty low, right? It's what, 40s or something?
I think it's dropped down to like 28.
Okay. Yeah. That's probably too low. For
To
sure.
me, it is, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I could see. So, like, I just did a review with my friend Lucian, and we talked about this film, The Devil All the Time. That also had a pretty mixed critical response.
Yeah, I love that, though.
Yeah, I liked it a lot too. He didn't like it. I felt like the reason why was like the themes didn't connect with him.
True.
And I felt like that was a very theme-based movie. But that also, like, the critical consensus, it was like around 50 or 60%, I think, was generally like where the score was at for that movie. And I feel like this is another movie where I can see people having mixed opinions of it for a number of reasons, for sure.
Definitely.
But yeah, I don't think it's like 20% bad. Like that's like U-Bowl film or something, some absolute.
No.
Yeah. like how low is like Blood Rain? That's what I want to know in comparison to this.
I don't know. I'm gonna look it up after this because I'm curious now.
Yeah. If something like Blood Rain is higher than this, like, okay, come on, Rotten Tomatoes, you're high right now, Rotten Tomatoes.
Critics are. I think the audience reception's about 60% or so.
Yeah, that sounds about right to me. Like 50-60 is where I would think people would rate this, honestly, if you're just taking an honest opinion. So as people, anyone who's sort of seen any of the advertising or anything for this film, like, there's a lot of mystery around it, right? But like the way the film opens, they're on a plantation. It's the 1860s. It's like the Confederacy or something. They're somewhere in the South. And there's this really cool, like, long sort of Steadicam shot through this plantation. And we see, like, it's like a cotton plantation. There's a lot of people that are there that are enslaved. There's a lot of, like, there's some military people there, like Confederate military people. We see them raise, like, the Confederate flag. We see Jenna Malone's character, Elizabeth, and like her, I don't know if that's her daughter, but it's this little creepy girl.
Yeah, I think it was her daughter. I'm not totally sure. She is creepy.
Yeah, because like I feel like in the credits, she's literally basically just creepy girl, like
creepy girl.
Yeah, it's like little blonde girl. It's like, okay. So yeah, there's a cinematic sort of Steadicam shot, and then there's a woman who's trying to run away, and there's this other man who's like sort of trying to, I don't know, protect her. And the woman's like basically a slave. She's a black woman, and she gets captured. Like, they kind of lasso her around her neck, and then they shoot her, and she dies. And that's opening.
It's a little brutal.
Yeah, there's a fair amount of brutality. I mean, it's going into it, we sort of expect that this is a South slavery movie, right?
Yeah, it's going to revolve around racism.
Yeah. So that's what we're in for, basically, with the film. And yeah, they give it to us right up front. That's like the horror element of this film, pretty much, is this, like, the horrors of slavery and what people had to go through.
Yeah, people were capable of doing to other people.
Yeah, and it's pretty harrowing. And then they linger on it. They don't really show us exactly until later. They kind of do a payoff later on, but they put this woman in, what do they call it? This it's like a box or something. I forget what they called it. It's called the burning shed.
Yeah, the burning shed. I was thinking incinerator, but I'm like, ugh.
Yeah, the burning shed, and the burning shed is like a really big sort of visual motif of the film. A lot, and there's a lot of really, really powerful shots with the burning shed. Yeah, and so this person gets taken away. We see a shot of the burning shed, and then we see Edith for the first time, who's Janelle Monáe. And there's this guy who's like torturing her, and she's like, say your name, girl. And she won't, and so he starts beating on her. And then he brands her. And the brand has this, like, it's like A/B.
I think it's DB.
DB, okay, DB, yeah. Yeah, DB with like a little circle around it. And then he says, if you try to escape again, I'll take you to the burning shed myself. So, yeah. And then she says her name's Edith. And then it's like, we get the title card 6 weeks later. So that's the opening of this film.
Yeah, it just like slams you like right from the beginning. Brutal,
yeah. Like really like harrowing stuff. And again, with the mystery of this film, like at this point we think this is a movie about this time during slavery. And later on, we kind of, at least, we'll talk a lot about like our theories about what the film was about, like what how the situation is playing out. Like, I know that there was some advertising where you could sort of see like an airplane or something flying over them while they were picking cotton, and so the film kind of presents this thing like, well, what's this about? Like, what's going on, right? Like, how is this happening in a present sort of time scenario? So yeah, like there's definitely a mystery to the film that we don't know at first. So then 6 weeks later, they're out there picking cotton, and then some new people arrive. And the main person that we see is this woman, Julia.
Which actually, she is named by the creepy blonde girl, because Janelle's character says, what do you want to name her? She's like, I think she's a Julia.
Yeah, that is so messed up. So, like, the little creepy girl, like, basically names all of the slaves, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Really, really creepy. And then, so then this guy, it's like, he's played by Jack Houston, Captain Jasper. He like gives this long speech like, oh, this is a reformer plantation. You can't speak unless we tell you to speak, blah, blah, blah. And basically it's horrible, right? It's freaking horrible. Yeah. So, okay. So now comes like the first sort of, I think, interesting point of the film that's kind of cluing us into what's going on. So Julia, Edith kind of takes Julia in, tries to sort of help her out. And Julia starts talking, and she has a very like American accent, right?
Oh, yeah. And she basically is talking to Edith, and she's like, I know you're the leader. I know you can get me out of this. So you're like, what's going on? How does she know?
Yeah. Yeah. And so from that, you got to think like, well, I'm pretty sure people didn't sound like that in the 1860s.
No.
So now we're like, okay, maybe this isn't the 1860s, but if it's not, like, what's going on? So yeah, what was it after that? Like, what came into your mind? What kind of theories did you think about at that point? About
I started thinking maybe it was time travel, something along those lines.
Yeah, I felt for sure like, yeah, like it was like time travel, like you time travel people from like some crazy evil racist person like has a time machine and they're taking people back to the south or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like that seemed like a scenario. But it definitely makes you think, like, these people are not from this time, but they're being taken there. But they are stuck, and that's horrific no matter what.
And there's also this guy there that is I'm assuming was the husband of the woman that was put in the burning shed. And he knows Edith, and he's telling her, let me know when you want to go, and we'll go. So he knows something's up too.
Yes, yeah. I think his name was like...
It was Eli.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Eli. So the two of them are like plotting. They're plotting to leave. And that thing at the beginning happened, like the other woman got killed because Edith and her and the others basically tried to get away, but they failed. And so they failed, and then this other woman, who's probably like Eli's wife, got, shot and killed. So they're constantly trying to escape, and they have some kind of connection with each other. So yeah, so then Julia's like basically telling her, like, hey, you need to help me get out of here, and sort of Edith is saying we can't do it right now, we don't have time, and Julia tells her that she's pregnant, and then she just gets really mad, and she's like, you ain't no leader, you're just a talker, and then she walks out, and it's very bleak.
It is. And then they have this dinner later, and there are Confederate soldiers there, and all the slaves are told, if the Confederate soldiers tell you to do something, you do it. Don't ask questions. Don't speak unless spoken to. And one kind of centers in on Julia, and she's told, go to this guy's cabin. Don't do anything else. And I don't know if you want to mention what happens, but...
well, as you can guess, something really bad happens to her.
Yeah.
Like, she gets kind of beat up or whatever.
Because the guy
ahead.
acted very nice to her at the dinner, and she's like, thank you for being so sweet. And he instantly goes, why are you talking to me? I didn't tell you to talk to me.
Yeah, and then he just starts, beating on her, and Edith is in the other room so she can hear it all, and it's really, really horrific. It's just, this is what it is. It's really, really rough stuff. Really scary stuff.
It is.
And so then the next day, Julia and the others, they're working in the field.
And you can tell Julia's sick or something. She's sweating. She's hunched over. And she goes to Edith, and Edith tells her, just work. Just do it. And then that's when something else happens that's not great.
Yeah, she has a miscarriage, basically.
Yeah. Because she was kicked in the stomach.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And that's just... it's right. Like, this is some heavy stuff. It's really like pretty brutal. Like, this film goes there pretty hardcore. But like, realistically, this is not... this is like what it is in a lot of ways. Like, this is what slavery was like, what it was about. It was brutal.
And even Jack Houston's character, when he finds out that she's miscarrying, he just tells Edith, go take her to the cabin, clean her up, bring her back. Doesn't care about her health, her safety. He just wants her cleaned up, back to work. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. And a part of this was like Eli sort of did this distraction to give Julia more time. He calls the guy a cracker as he walks by.
Yeah.
And, which is really funny. And then Eli is super rebellious, right? Which is really interesting. Like, he's like, F you guys, right? He's like, F the man. But as punishment, they send him to the burning shed, and that's where he finds the cross of whoever this person was, maybe his wife, something like that. Mm-hmm. And at that point, he knows she was burned to death in that shed.
Yeah.
It basically incinerated. Yeah, like you were saying. Like, wow. Really, really powerful stuff. That was a really emotional moment. Okay, so then the film. So then there's a scene with Edith and this other guy who's like the general or something.
He's like the father, so he's the overseer of the entire plantation.
Yeah. And then something happens, and then we kind of get clued into like what's really going on. So we'll get to that. So like, yeah, because that's when we'll get into more spoilers. So, at this point, like, when what happened happens, so like when whatever happened with the at the end of that scene. So what were your theories? Did your theories change at this point, or did you still feel sort of in a similar vein about what the mystery of the film was going to be about?
I still thought maybe it could be time travel, but I was also like, I don't know now. I really don't. I thought maybe it could be kind of like a past life situation where they're just thinking it's...
Yeah.
I didn't really know at that point.
Yeah, I think for me there was some. So in that scene with the like the dinner, they talk about some stuff, and it just kind of gave me this alternate history kind of vibe. It seemed like the Confederates were doing better in the war than in like reality. So yeah, something gave me this kind of like, yeah, sort of time travel, but also we're on an alternate timeline, like something worse, pretty much. And the other thing too, I just got this sense that maybe it was some kind of like mental thing, like someone's trapped in a mental state where they're forced to be in this type of world. That's a good
theory.
Yeah, those are the things that came to my mind at this point. But then the film. Okay, so now we're going to talk about spoilers. We're going to get more into what the film's actually about. So if anyone who's watching or listening, if you don't want to get spoiled, you can come to the end of the video and we'll talk about our final thoughts. But yeah, we're going to get into spoilers now. So in that scene with the dad, she hears a cell phone ring, and then we see her wake up.
But she's in a completely different place. Yeah. Another guy beside her, which is her husband, and it's present day.
Yeah, present day, and she's like, she's like a totally different person. We learned her name's Veronica. She's a PhD psychologist.
She just wrote a book that's been a bestseller.
Yeah, she's like a big she gets media appearances, and she's about to go to some really big sort of, I guess, speaking convention, kind of like I forget but it's like the talk circuit or whatever. So yeah, it's like this is a curveball, right?
Yeah.
Because now, yeah, it's like, what are they the same person? Like you said, is this a past life thing? Is this what's
And also, I noticed that when she woke up, she complained about her back aching, and she touched where the brand was in the previous situation, but there's no brand on her there.
Yeah, they really kind of throw stuff at you, right? Yeah, and then when she wakes up, her husband said, "Oh, another bad dream." So it's almost like, we would think she's like maybe she's having these weird, not nightmares, but like dreams about a past life or something.
Or maybe she's, time traveling in her sleep or something like that. Yeah.
But, we think like these are the same person, but it's like, how are these things? What's the connection? But so then Victoria gets a call, and it's from Elizabeth, aka so the Jenna Malone character. And yeah, the Jenna Malone character is creepy, like from the jump.
Oh yeah, she's like, "Oh, that lipstick suits your skin tone so perfectly. Do you think it'd work on me?" And then she sees her daughter come in. She's like, "Is that Kennedy?" And this woman has never talked to Veronica before. How does she know her daughter's name?
Yeah, it's really creepy. But like Veronica kind of doesn't pay attention to it. She just kind of hangs up the phone on her, And there's this interesting part where like Veronica's like, oh, what do you do? And she's like, oh, I'm a headhunter or something like that. It's like, oh my God. So but now, you know, we're seeing more sort of dots connected, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we know that the Jenna Malone character is, so there's all these similar things, right? I mean, again, we could still kind of make the interpretation, maybe it's like a past life. Like, yeah, in the past life, the Jenna Malone character was the overseer and Janelle Monáe was the slave, and seeing that juxtaposition. But now in our time, you know, Veronica, she's like, the Janelle Monáe character is like, you know, super successful PhD, smart person.
Yeah, she's wealthy. She wears beautiful clothes. She's got a daughter and a husband, a gorgeous house. I mean, she's doing really well for herself.
Yeah. So, yeah, very interesting, right? It's like, what do we think at this point? Did this change your ideas about the film, or were you still sort of?
I was still wondering. I was like, what's going on? Like, now they're in the present day. It's a different. Veronica's a different person. She's not Edith anymore. So I'm like, what's going on? And then when I saw Jenna Malone's character, I'm like, wait, she was in the past. She was in the past part, and I'm like, how does she know about Veronica now? So I was like, what's going on?
Yeah. It was a little confusing. Well, you could tell they were still not totally revealing everything, right?
Yeah.
So now Veronica, she's going to this conference. She has to leave her husband and daughter at home. She goes off. She does all this stuff. Then we get a lot of these scenes where there's like different. She's basically going through different microaggressions. She there's one scene where she's trying to set up a reservation for dinner at a really fancy restaurant, and the person at the front desk is like being, you know, crappy to her for whatever reason.
Do it.
Exactly, yeah. And then there's a scene where they go. So here's the other thing. So then we get introduced to this character Dawn, who's played by Gabrielle Sidibe, who is known for, she played the lead in the film Precious. Okay, so what did you think about this character?
She's just very, very flamboyant, outspoken. She just kind of steamrolls through everything.
Yeah, she has a very strong personality, this character. Like, wow.
She's like the #1 relationship expert in the country, I think they said. So she's like giving advice to everybody about how they should be dating.
Yeah, and that comes up later, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we see her, there's this big scene at the dinner where she like gives advice to this guy who's trying to hit on her, which was interesting. Which was really interesting. But yeah, at the dinner there's more weird microaggressions. They try to seat them at the worst table, and the character Dawn is like, no, this isn't okay. And just like kind of takes over.
She's like, no, this ain't gonna happen. We're sitting here.
Yeah, and thank you. I really thought that was funny.
It was.
Okay, so during the dinner, like Veronica's like, oh, I gotta get home. I gotta get back, because the two, like, it was Dawn and this other girl. I forget her name.
I actually cannot remember her name. I don't even know if it was revealed, if they ever said her name in the movie.
Yeah, maybe not. But yeah, so it was the three of them at dinner, and so the two of them, so Dawn and this other girl, they were gonna go out partying, but Veronica was gonna try and take a flight back home quickly, so she wasn't gonna go with them. So Veronica gets into an Uber, and the other two, they get into another Uber, and then Veronica gets like a call from the driver, and the Uber driver's like, hey, like, I'm waiting for you. Where are you? And Veronica's like, oh, I'm already in the car. What are you talking about? And then the driver of the car she's in is Jenna Malone. And she gets kidnapped.
And then it was Jack Houston in the backseat, right?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Yeah, like he's trying to like knock her out. She looks out the window and sees David Benton up for re-election, and then I caught the DB. I'm like, that was
Yes.
what was branded on her back, was those initials. So I'm like, something's got to be going on with David Benton.
Yes. Yeah. David. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's like a senator.
I think, he was a senator.
Yeah.
And one other thing I noticed, she got a flower delivery to her room earlier, and she's like, oh, who's this from? And the guy wouldn't say. She looks at the note, it says, looking forward to your homecoming. And that's all it says.
Yeah.
So then you're like, wait, is it from Janelle Monáe's character saying she's going to go back to the plantation, maybe? I was like, what's going on there?
Yeah. That was interesting. And there was another part, too, where Veronica's in the elevator with the creepy little girl.
And she's like, don't speak, you'll get in trouble.
Yeah.
And then she's dragging along a doll on a leash.
Oh, yeah. So creepy. So creepy. Oh my god. The creepy level of this film is very high, right?
It's not so much scary as it's just kind of creepy, and then there's the acts of brutality.
Yeah, exactly. So now I think this is what kind of turns a lot of people off to this film.
Mm-hmm.
I think. So the premise is basically like The Village, right? I don't know if you've seen that movie.
I have, yes.
Like The Village, the premise was people, they went off somewhere and then they recreated this like 1800s civilization. This is like the same thing, right? Like they're recreating this 18th, but the premise is like kind of, they're doing it to reenact slavery. And so I could totally see how, of all the theories, I could see how that one, being the case, where people could be like, wait, what?
Yeah, it's like people pay to go and see this, like just go to this park and see this recreated.
Yeah, exactly. And I could see how the suspension of disbelief can be kind of difficult with that, because generally people are going to be like, there's no way that this could happen. I think people would think. Mm-hmm. I think that they sort of set it up in a way that's a bit more realistic once we get to, I guess, the final fait accompli of like what the hell is actually going on here, right? But I just think that trying to do this type of a plot twist in a way could kind of turn some people off. I don't know. What did you think?
I really liked that they did it that way, because they start the film off with them at the plantation, and then they go back to present day, and then it's revealed that the whole thing is set up in the present day. And it doesn't really say that they're at a park or anything until near the end of the movie, but you do know something's going on because the overseer, the father, goes outside and answers his cell phone at 3 a.m. And Janelle Monáe's character is like, okay, he's got a cell phone. And just things unfurl from there with Eli and them escaping.
Yeah, that was a really interesting scene, because he picks up the phone, he's talking to someone, and then he gets really mad, and he his accent slips, and he kind of goes back to the normal American accent, and then it's like, this whole thing is this weird fake charade, and at that point, Veronica is like, okay, now is the time to do it. And so throughout the film, there's been these interesting like scenes where Veronica was like, she's like doing this weird stuff where she's stepping on the like on the floorboards, trying not to, or doing something. We don't know why. We're not really sure.
She was trying not to step on squeaky floorboards so she wouldn't be heard.
Yeah. So and then we see why. This is like part of her plot, basically. But so just to cover one other thing real quick. So like there's another point where they're all working, right? Mm-hmm. And this is what really gets Veronica to want to do the escape plan immediately. And the captain is like, where's Julia? Where is she? And Edith or Veronica goes to her chambers, and they finds that Julia hung herself. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so it was just too much for her to take. And that's the moment where she's like, okay, I'm done with this.
Also, I wanted to ask, did you notice that there was a recurring theme of a butterfly being shown?
Oh, I don't think I saw that.
There's a butterfly on Veronica's laptop screen. Her book cover had a butterfly on it, and then Julia had a butterfly tattoo on her ankle.
Oh, wow. Okay,
and
I didn't catch
Veronica's
that.
book was about unshackling your past from your present.
Mm.
So I don't know if Julia was a fan of Veronica's book and she got the tattoo because she's a fan.
Yeah. Maybe there's some connection. Like, she kind of knew who she was, which would make the whole thing even more powerful for her.
And that also gives you another clue that it's in the present day because people didn't have tattoos like that back then.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a good catch for sure. There's a lot of good stuff planted in here, right?
Yeah.
Definitely a good film to rewatch. So, at this point, Veronica's like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to escape. So then she does this really cool kind of gymnastic yoga. Like, there were some other scenes we saw her doing yoga. Mm-hmm. So she uses all those skills to like, once the general guy or the headmaster of the plantation is asleep, she escapes without him hearing. And then she meets with Eli, and who she calls Professor.
Yeah, she calls him Professor.
So this guy's
he must be a very prestigious professor, and all these people are getting kidnapped.
Yeah, it's super, like, it's so fucked up. This thing is so messed up.
It is.
So Veronica and the professor, they get the phone. Veronica tries to dial 911, and the call just disconnects. And they're under a time stress, right? Like, there are people roaming around. They don't really have much time. And, she says that they need the general's face to unlock his phone. So the two of them go in there and they try to get him. And then there's a huge fight breaks out. The general, he like wakes up and they're fighting with him. The professor dies, but Veronica, is able to kill the professor and unlock the phone.
Yes, she is.
Yeah, and that was a pretty, there's a lot to feel about that scene, right? Seeing this guy die, the professor die, is like really kind of sad, especially now that we know, because at that point we kind of feel like, okay, this is another like person like her, pretty much, right?
Yeah. And
that person we saw in the burning shed was probably like his wife, and so it's just like, it's just horror on top of horror. Mm-hmm. So then Veronica calls her husband, and she's able to relay her location to him. And then she like takes the general's body and she puts him in the burning shed, and then the captain comes like, "What the hell are you doing?" And then she like tricks him, right?
Yeah, and someone else also comes with him. She's like, He's hurt. Come. He's in the shed. So they follow. She locks them in and then sets it on fire.
Yeah, that was a great scene. And then she walks away with like a torch.
Yeah, and you see the burning shed just like in flames. She's silhouetted against it.
Yeah, and there's like a full moon in the background. It's a really beautiful shot. Like, that's probably one of the best shots of the film. And then Veronica gets on a horse and she's getting the hell out of there.
And that's when you see the sign that says Reenactment Park. And there's people out there. Their cars are parked. They're like, what is happening? Yeah,
it's crazy. What it turns out, and again, this is another sort of how this relates to a film like The Village, because The Village, it was almost like the same thing. It was like some park and they'd taken it over and they built their little thing, but it was preserved so people didn't mess with it. So it was Antebellum. It was a Louisiana Civil War reenactment. Mm-hmm. And Blake Denton was the owner. And I'm pretty sure he was the senator guy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and his and then we see that symbol. Their symbol, their like their plantation symbol on that sign. The one that they had branded Veronica with.
Yeah.
And there's even a scene where there's another scene where we see Elizabeth like in the sort of the middle of the film, and she has this little button.
Yeah,
and
the
it
pin. It had the
Yeah.
same brand.
Yeah. So now we see the full picture, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one thing we should talk about too. So another one of the most satisfying parts of the film is like, so Elizabeth is giving chase to Veronica, and they get into a fight, and then Veronica just beats the shit out of her, right?
Yes.
And then on top of that, she basically does what happened to the girl at the beginning of the film, hangs a noose around her neck and pulls her on the horse, and then she hits her head on this statue, which is a statue of Robert E. Lee.
I didn't catch that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it was a Robert E. Lee statue. Yeah. And then like we get this really beautiful like last shot of the film, or last sequence, I should say. It's like her in slow motion, Veronica on this horse. She's wearing sort of like a Union kind of jacket, and she's got like a gun or something, and she's just like charging, and there's all these reenactors are there, and they're like there's firing cannons and stuff, and she's running, and she's on the horse, and then they keep going, and we see the sign, and then we see her exit, and we see the police coming, and that's the film. Very cinematic way to end the film, for sure.
I'd also say stay for some of the credits, because they do have a scene or two after the credits.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah, they
totally missed that.
They just showed the FBI raiding the park after everything that's happened, and then they show Veronica sitting in an ambulance, and that's it. I mean, it's not that much, but
okay. The good guys win.
Yeah.
That's pretty. Yeah. Wow. Okay. And so yeah, piecing this all together, right? So Blake Denton was this guy who created this park. Elizabeth was his daughter, and they're like in cahoots finding people to bring to this place. And there's even like when Elizabeth is chasing Veronica, she's like, "Oh, I didn't want to take you, but he really wanted to have you." So
she mentioned that Veronica was her dad's favorite.
Yeah, which makes sense if throughout the film, like he even says to her, "Oh, I'll never let them take you," and he's always like sleeping with her and like kind of, it's terrible, right? It is. It's so terrible. Yeah, so that was the film. Very interesting film. So I guess one of the things, so we talked about this a little bit before, but did you find this film scary, or would you say it was more like creepy? What was the fear factor, I guess you would put on this film?
My personal fear factor is probably either 1 or 2. Yeah. I mean, I'm a pretty seasoned horror movie person, so to me, this is more of a thriller.
Yeah.
For some people, I would say the brutality would be more horrifying, which is horrifying to me too. I'm just saying it's more of a scary thing for some people. But I don't think it should be classified as strictly horror, because it's not really.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely, like you said, it's more of a thriller. But I guess it depends on the person, right?
Yeah,
like maybe,
true.
For some people, this could be pretty horrific. Just the scenes of the brutality alone, maybe. So I guess what were your overall thoughts about the film?
I liked it. I liked how it I never knew what to expect, and I liked that it just kept twisting and turning, and I just wanted to know what was going to happen. I wanted to know, if Veronica was going to be okay. I enjoyed it. I gave it pretty much a 3.5 out of 5 stars, just because I like the surprise aspect. I like the story. Janelle Monáe was phenomenal in this. But I do see where a lot of people would hate it or, not agree with it. So I can't say that my opinion is like, oh my gosh, it's the gold standard, because it's not.
Yeah, I think, and the interesting thing too is like in the advertising they talk about and they kind of compare it to like Get Out and Us.
It's actually from the same producers too, so that it makes you think it's going to be like that, which to me it's kind of similar to Get Out in a way, but
yeah, it really kind of is. That's a good point. I definitely think that the quality of those films was a little bit higher than this one.
They were, yeah.
Yeah, but it's not. Yeah, I definitely was a little bit more jaded. I think when I saw it the first time, I got a chance to see it again. The film. I think that for me, the fact that the kind of the twist of the film, because that's the thing that I think was really interesting about this film is like we get this premise where we see these people and they're in this sort of brutal slavery period. And like you said, what's interesting is like, how did they resolve that? What's the answer to the mystery? And I almost feel like this is like a thriller mystery film, really,
Mm-hmm.
because that's what you care about. It's like, okay, what's going on, right?
Oh yeah, you're not worried about it being scared after you start the movie. You're just like, what's going on? I need to figure it out.
Yeah, because your mind starts turning, and especially like when you see Julia, and that's like pretty much one of the first real pieces of story we get in the film,
Mm-hmm.
besides the setup. At that point, you're just like, okay, she sounds like an American. She doesn't sound like some Southerner from 1860. She sounds like a present day American. So what is going on, right? So yeah, I don't know. It's kind of hard to think of like different ways that you could resolve this premise that are more satisfying. Because like you like the way that it's resolved, right?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. So I don't know. I guess it was just sometimes there are films that work for some people and don't work for other people. I feel like this kind of
this one, especially
Yeah.
with the topics it brings up. I mean, obviously the brutality, the racism, it's not going to sit
Yeah.
well with some people.
Yeah, exactly. And so a lot of people they're on the premise alone. They're not sold on the film.
I think other
Yeah.
people are probably disappointed because it is marketed as a straight up horror film from the trailers and the posters, and then it's not. I think that's another reason why people are a little disappointed.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because I could almost see like, ever seen, what was that film, Overlord?
Yes, I did see that.
Yeah, because Overlord is like imagine if this film was like took an Overlord turn, right, or something. Like where it play like it, or and then there's some like weird technological aspect to like how we got to that point where like maybe the freaking Confederate people start mutating or something, or they have some different technology, or, like that would be a horror version of something like this story, right?
Yeah, true.
But yeah, this is definitely more of like a mystery thriller than like a horror film. And yeah, if you went in expecting even something like Us, which was a little bit more, even Get Out wasn't super gory or horror-y, but there were definitely some scares. But I feel like Us was a little bit more close to like what, I don't know. Like sometimes like horror fans, they have this insatiable, right, appetite for just like death and destruction and gore.
I tend to lean toward that direction with horror films rather than say the paranormal, but yeah, there are a lot of people that are like, I need everything in a horror movie.
Yeah, it's like I need more deaths. Give me more deaths that are crazy. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I think I would give this I film's pretty, for me it's around like a 5 or 5.5 out of 10. It's not terrible. I think it's got some very good cinematic elements. I think you're definitely, so when you watch this film, like if you went in knowing nothing about this film, your brain would start turning immediately about like, what is the answer to this mystery? And I think that's the strongest part of this film. And like you said, you always wanted to know what was going to come next.
Yeah.
And it definitely kind of leaves you, it blindsides you a couple times, but they do a good job of like kind of giving you clues and also giving you these kind of red herrings, like the stuff where she woke up and it was a bad dream. And like you said, she was holding her back. And you're just like, it just pops all these theories into your head. And it does a really good job of that. So yeah, I think this is like, it's like a little bit above average, but an interesting film nonetheless.
Oh, definitely. And it's a very divisive film. I mean, you're going to love it or you're going to hate it, but...
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, that's the way some films are, like I said, The Devil All the Time. You liked it. I liked it. I've heard a lot of people don't like
watch,
it.
Though.
It is, yeah. It is a tough one. I mean, that's a film that's like, it's got more death than this film.
Oh yeah, it's like
It's a
there's
drama.
nothing happy in that movie at all.
No, there really isn't. Yeah, I think that the ending resolves in a way where, at least for me, I feel that there's justice served.
Mm-hmm.
So, but sometimes you get justice, but there isn't. Just things don't happen to the people who've been wronged.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So, do you have any final thoughts about this film or anything else?
I think it's worth watching. I don't know if I'd recommend paying $20 to everyone. If you're on the fence about it, maybe wait for a price drop, or when it comes to Redbox or Blu-ray, maybe get it then. But if you're really wanting to see it, if you're open to it, and if you're interested just in what the film is portraying, or it seems to be portraying from the trailers and all that, give it a watch. I think it's worth at least a one-time watch just to see where you fall on the spectrum, if you like it or if you don't. But obviously be prepared for tough topics. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're into the films like, because this is almost sort of becoming its own sort of genre, like this types of horror, like in the Get Outs and we were supposed to get Candyman this year too, but we didn't get that film. And these all kind of feel like they're in the same vein. If you're into that kind of stuff. Yeah, that was disappointing.
It was like 2021.
Yeah. Listen, we just don't get any nice things in 2020. In film, especially. No. Like, just not our year, which sucks.
Which, funnily enough, some of the best films I've watched this year have been indie films. I think they've really gotten a chance to shine this year, where otherwise they'd be overlooked by the big box office blockbusters. But movies we're excited about have either been delayed. We don't know when they're going to come out. Some are potentially going to be delayed again, like Black Widow and Wonder Woman. Well, Wonder Woman got delayed till Christmas, so I mean, it's disappointing, yeah, for some. And Antebellum was supposed to come out in theaters, and they decided to release it on VOD instead.
Yeah, and there's it's just good that you bring that up because there's so many films. I remember there was a film called Saint Maud. I don't know if you've heard of that film.
That was so good.
Yeah, you seen it?
Wait, I thought Saint Francis.
Oh,
there's two Saint movies this year. Forgive me, people. Forgive me.
Okay, no, it's all good.
No,
maybe I
should
should check it out.
I did read an article about Saint Maud, and I wanted to watch it, but I was thinking about Saint Francis. There's a movie called Saint Francis that's really good.
Okay. Was that like a horror film too? Or
no, it's not a horror film.
Okay, it's just like a drama.
Yeah. Drama comedy.
Oh, okay. Okay, maybe I'll have to check that out. There was another. It was like the Green Knight or something like that. Was it A24 film? This kind of very interesting horror-ish something kind of film. It had I forget, but it looked interesting. There's been a lot of interesting films in the genre that just kind of disappeared. Like, we don't even know when or if we're going to see them at all.
Yeah, it's just this year has taken so much from us.
Yeah, I know. But we got to see Antebellum, so that's something.
Yeah, that's something.
So I think that just about wraps it up. I think we both. So you liked the film. Mm-hmm. Thought it was pretty solid. I thought it was kind of in the middle. I definitely think if you're into these types of films, check it out. But yeah, go in expecting more of a mystery thriller than like, Freddy Krueger style horror. Yeah, if you're into like Freddy Krueger or like Leatherface, like you're not gonna get that.
Expecting something like The Exorcist or something.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, not The Exorcist, not any of that. Yeah, but a solid film nonetheless. So, yeah, all right, cool. So that was our review for Antebellum. Thank you so much for coming in and watching, and have a good night, everyone. Take care.